It's 3 a.m. and the world is asleep, but you're not. You're lying in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, or maybe you're scrolling through your phone, bathed in blue light. Maybe you're sitting by the window, watching the empty streets below, and there's this feeling, this strange, heavy, almost sacred feeling, like you're the only person awake in the entire world. The silence isn't just quiet, it's thick. It wraps around you like a blanket you didn't ask for. And here's the thing nobody talks about. People who sleep at 3 a.m. aren't just night owls. They're not just insomniacs or procrastinators. They're something else entirely. There's a psychology beneath this pattern, a reason why some people are drawn to the dark hours when everyone else has surrendered to sleep. And it's deeper than you think. Let me ask you something. When do you feel most like yourself? For most people, it's during the day, surrounded by noise, by people, by sunlight and schedules. But for the 3 a.m. person, it's the opposite. They come alive when the world goes silent. Because in those hours there are no expectations, no masks to wear, no performances to maintain. At 3 a.m, you don't have to be anything for anyone, you can just exist. And for people who spend their days pretending, adapting, smiling when they don't feel it, those late hours become a kind of refuge. Psychologists have a term for this. They call it temporal freedom. It's the feeling that time finally belongs to you, that the clock isn't dictating who you should be or what you should accomplish. At 3 a.m, productivity doesn't matter, success doesn't matter, even sleep doesn't matter. What matters is that you're finally free. But here's where it gets complicated, because not everyone stays up late by choice. Some people are running from something. Maybe it's the fear of tomorrow, the anxiety of waking up and having to face responsibilities they're not ready for. Maybe it's regret, replaying conversations, mistakes, moments they wish they could undo. Or maybe it's loneliness, the kind that feels heavier in the dark. Studies show that people who consistently sleep late often score higher on measures of rumination. That's the psychological term for overthinking, for getting stuck in loops of thought you can't escape. At 3 a.m, your mind doesn't rest, it spirals. You think about everything. Your past, your future, the people you've lost, the person you wish you were. And the later it gets, the louder those thoughts become. Because in the daytime, you can distract yourself. You can stay busy, keep moving, drown the noise with productivity. But at 3 a.m, there's nowhere to hide. The silence forces you to sit with yourself. And for some people, that's the hardest thing in the world. Here's something most people don't realise. Late night wakefulness is often a symptom, not a habit. It's a signal that something inside you is unresolved. Psychologists studying sleep patterns have found that people who consistently stay awake past midnight often have one thing in common. They're avoiding emotional processing. During the day, your mind is too occupied to deal with pain, so it waits. It waits until you're alone, until you're quiet, until you have no choice but to feel. And that's when it all rises to the surface. The grief you've been pushing down, the anger you've been swallowing, the sadness you've been pretending isn't there. At 3 a.m, it all comes flooding back, and instead of facing it, instead of letting yourself feel it, you stay awake, you distract yourself, you scroll, you watch, you numb, because sleep feels like surrender, and surrendering means letting your guard down, and maybe, just maybe, you're afraid of what you'll dream about if you close your eyes. But not all 3 a.m. people are suffering. Some are creating. There's a reason so many artists, writers, and thinkers are nocturnal. There's something about the late hours that unlocks a different part of the mind. Psychologists call this the creativity paradox. When the world is asleep, your brain stops filtering. It stops trying to make sense of everything. It just flows. Ideas that seemed impossible during the day suddenly feel within reach. Words come easier. Thoughts feel sharper. At 3 a.m, You're not bound by logic or reason. You're free to explore the edges of your imagination. And for some people, that's not a curse. It's a gift. They don't stay up because they're broken. They stay up because they're alive. Because the night feels like home. Because the quiet feels like freedom. And maybe that's not something to fix. Maybe it's something to honour. There's also this. People who sleep at 3 a.m. are often deeply introspective. They think about life differently. They question things others accept. They notice details most people overlook. Research shows that people with delayed sleep schedules often score higher on measures of cognitive complexity and open-mindedness. They're not just awake, they're observing, processing, reflecting. They see the world through a different lens, one that's quieter, slower, more honest. And in a world that moves so fast, that never stops demanding, there's something sacred about that. At 3 a.m, you're not performing for anyone. You're not proving anything. You're just being. And maybe that's why it feels so addictive, because in those hours, you remember who you are beneath all the noise. But here's the hard truth. Staying up late comes at a cost. Your body pays for it. Your mind pays for it. Your relationships pay for it. Sleep deprivation isn't just about feeling tired. It affects your emotional regulation, your decision making, your sense of self. Studies show that chronic late sleepers are at higher risk for anxiety, depression and burnout, because no matter how beautiful the night feels, your body still needs rest, your brain still needs to reset. And when you deny yourself that, when you keep pushing through exhaustion, you start to fragment. You become a version of yourself that's always half present, always a little disconnected, always running on fumes. And eventually, the very thing that felt like freedom starts to feel like a prison. So what do you do if you're someone who can't sleep until 3 a.m? First, you stop shaming yourself for it, because shame doesn't heal. It just makes the cycle worse. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not failing at life. You're just someone whose rhythm doesn't match the world's rhythm, and that's okay. But it's also important to ask yourself why. Why do I stay awake? What am I avoiding? What am I seeking? Is it peace? Is it distraction? Is it control? Sometimes the answer is simple. You're a natural night person. Your circadian rhythm is different, and that's biology, not a flaw. But other times, the answer is deeper. Maybe you're staying awake because daytime feels unsafe, because being alone with your thoughts feels too heavy, because sleep means vulnerability. And if that's the case, then healing doesn't start with forcing yourself to sleep earlier. It starts with addressing what's keeping you awake. Therapy can help, journaling can help, honest conversations can help, but most of all, self-compassion can help. Because the 3 a.m. version of you isn't your enemy, it's the part of you that's trying to survive, and instead of fighting it, maybe you need to listen to it. Here's what I've learned about people who sleep at 3 a.m. They're not just tired, they're thinkers, feelers, observers. They carry worlds inside them that most people never see. They know what it's like to sit with silence and not run from it, to face themselves in the dark and not look away. And yes, sometimes that's painful, sometimes it's lonely, but it's also real, because at 3 a.m. there are no filters, no pretending, no hiding, just you and the truth. And maybe that's why so many people are drawn to those hours, because truth, as uncomfortable as it is, feels like home. There's a strange beauty in being awake when the world is asleep. You see things others don't, the way the moon changes the colour of the streets, the way silence has texture. You feel things others don't, the weight of time, the vastness of existence, the smallness of your own life in the face of it all. And maybe that's terrifying, but maybe it's also profound, because people who sleep at 3 a.m. aren't just living, they're witnessing. They're watching life unfold in slow motion while everyone else races through it. And there's something deeply human about that, something honest. If you're reading this at 3 a.m, I want you to know something. You're not alone. There are millions of people awake right now, scattered across the world, sitting in their own silence, thinking their own thoughts. Some are struggling, some are creating, some are just existing, but all of them, like you, are searching for something, Maybe it's peace, maybe it's meaning, maybe it's just a moment where they don't have to pretend. And that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to fix yourself tonight. You just have to be here, present, alive. Because the fact that you're still awake, still thinking, still feeling, means you haven't given up. And that in itself is beautiful. The psychology of people who sleep at 3 a.m. isn't simple. It's not just about staying up late. It's about what those hours represent. Freedom, fear, creativity, pain, solitude, truth. It's about being human in a world that doesn't always make space for that. And maybe you don't need to change. Maybe you just need to understand. Understand that your rhythm is different, that your mind works in ways others don't see, that your late nights aren't a flaw, they're a language. And maybe, just maybe, you need to start speaking that language with kindness. So here's to the 3 a.m. people, the ones who think too much, feel too deeply, stay awake too long, the ones who find beauty in the dark, who create in the silence, who live on their own time. You're not broken, you're just different. And the world needs people like you, people who refuse to sleep through life, who sit with the uncomfortable, who ask the hard questions, because while everyone else is dreaming, you're awake. And maybe that's exactly where you're supposed to be.